Hi everyone, my name is Leah Kopke and I'm a 3D motion design freelancer. I also have a podcast where each week I cover another 3D modeling tool for Cinema 4D. Hello and welcome! I'm excited to go over the Subdivide tool with you here today. So let's jump into Cinema 4D and get started. I find this tool is really helpful for adding in details to your models like buttons, or if you need to add in vents into an object or things like that. Little details where maybe you don't need your entire mesh to be subdivided, but you need a portion of it too in order to add in those details. So let's start off with talking about where you can find this tool. So you can find this tool within the mesh menu. If we go under add, you'll see Subdivide listed here. You can see that the hotkey for it is US or U-Shift-S. US is simpler, so I just go with that. And it has this gear icon next to it because it actually has additional options here. So what I usually like to do is, if I'm going to be using this tool a lot, I like to add it to my UI because it just makes it easier to select it. So we can go ahead and do that by opening up the commander. So I'll go ahead and click off of there and use Shift-C and search for the tool Subdivide. Now you'll see that there's a couple that come up here. We have our node operator. We will go through nodes in the future, but let's just first start off with the original mesh tool for Subdivide. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to drag and drop this into our UI. You can see that we have all these lines highlighting it. We could put this wherever we want. I'm going to put this here. And we still have the gear icon here, which is nice, simple, easy to click on and find. You'll see we have some options here, what kind of pattern our subdivisions will create in terms of our type of typology. You can choose whether it's going to smooth everything out. You can choose your subdivisions for when it's not being smoothed, your iterations for when it is being smoothed, and your maximum angle, at which point does it smooth an edge, what angle. So let's go ahead and break these down because I went through that really fast, but to really understand it, we're going to break down each one of these concepts and settings and show examples and maybe how this would be used in the first place. So just out of the box, if you were to click on some polygons and hit Subdivide, you can see it subdivided it. And this is actually quite a high subdivision. But let's talk about this for a little bit. I'm going to hit cancel and undo that. I'll navigate over here. I think that the shape is a good shape to show how this works. What I did is I took an end side and I added an extrude. I right-clicked on it and chose current state to object in order to make this copy down here. And I'm going to name this button for right now, or we could name it joystick. Maybe we'll name this joystick because that's eventually what it'll be. I'm going to select all of these, and within here we can go ahead and choose different settings. So we have Catmull Clark. I'm going to keep our subdivisions at 1. I'm actually going to turn down these iterations as well, just so that we start off with the basic. So I have Catmull Clark, and I'm going to hit OK. Now you'll see that this one is really nice because what it does is it tries to subdivide it while keeping everything in quads. I'm going to hit undo. Our next option here is loop. So I'll select loop and I'll hit OK. And you'll see that loop uses triangles in order to subdivide. So you can see how our topology looks entirely different So depending on what you're trying to model, you want to keep in mind what kind of topology you need to make that form. So I'll hit undo again, Control Z on PC or Command Z on Mac, depending on what system you're working on. Our third option here is opposite. Opposite tends to be good at handling n-gons, and you can see the top of this object has an n-gon. So let's go ahead and click opposite and hit OK once again. And you can see that it handled that n-gon pretty well. We do have some triangles here in the center. It doesn't remove all the triangles necessarily like the other option we had, Catmull Clark. So you have different options, and it's good to be aware of them. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. And I'll hit undo again. So if you wanted to increase the subdivisions here, you could, and we'll hit OK just to show what that looks like with 3 subdivisions. We have a lot more loops in this model going around. Now, let's just say we wanted this to be rounded when it was subdivided. We don't just want these hard edges. If you click Smooth Subdivision right here, you'll see this new option come up, Iterations. I'm actually going to put this back to 0. Click on Smooth Subdivisions again. So we have iterations here. If we click 1 and hit OK, everything's becoming rounded out. It still has some hard edges, but that can be fixed by increasing these iterations. And these are a lot like the subdivisions before, except that they're called iterations for when we are smoothing things out. So let's try 4, hit OK. And you can see that this almost looks like a circle. It's so smoothed out. So that's good to be aware of, that that's what that does. I'm going to hit undo once again. We have this option called maximum angle. So this angle here is 90 degrees. That is less than 180 degrees. So that angle there is being rounded. What if we take this down to less than 90 degrees and choose OK? Now you can see it's no longer rounding that because this isn't falling within that maximum angle to be smoothed. So let's go ahead and set this back to 180 here. I no longer really want this to be smoothed. And I'll hit OK. I'm going to hit undo now and just remove everything. And this is actually the setting that I want to use going forward, just to show an example of why this might be useful for 3D modeling. If you were to initially look at this shape, you may think, this looks kind of complicated if I wanted to add a button to the center and have nice clean loops going around it still. Well, we can handle this situation with the Subdivide. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. I find this tool works really nice with the Fit Circle tool that we've covered previously. I'll leave a link to that in the description below if you'd like to learn it. Now what we can do is I can select a loop. We went over loop selection and loop cut in another episode. I'll leave that in the description below as well. But for those of you who have been watching along with these episodes, I'll go ahead and use the hotkey UL to select this loop. And we want to make this loop a circle. So we're going to use the Fit Circle tool here. We're going to click on that, and then we're going to click and drag our mouse. And now you can see this is becoming much more circular. So this is looking good. Now, let's say this doesn't look like a smooth enough of a circle. If we're going to have the camera in close, then we're actually going to need more iterations. So that's something to keep in mind, because I could go ahead and make a hole in this surface and extrude this down and add a button in here or a joystick or whatever you'd like to add in there. But if this looks too jagged for me, we just need to increase our subdivisions for when we're making the circle. So I'm going to hit undo a few times and let's give that a try. It's okay to try things out and redo them if needed, if you find you need more subdivisions. So let's go for 3 subdivisions, maybe 4, just to really smooth things out. So now we have this shape here. If I feel like I don't need quite all of these on the top, I can select a couple of these loops. And we went over how to dissolve them. I'll leave a link to that episode as well. For right now, I'll use the hotkey for it, MN. You can see N is listed here for dissolve. And now we've dissolved those extra loops we don't need here on the top. We can still go ahead and use loop selection, UL, in order to select this loop here. And we can make this circular by hitting the fit circle button here, clicking and dragging our mouse. Now this looks like a much smoother circle because we have more subdivisions. And if we were to have our camera at a distance like this would work perfectly fine. So we can now select this loop in polygon mode, and we can use E to move this down. I'm holding down Control so that this is actually going down into the surface and extruding. If I don't hold down Control, we're going to get this happening here, which is not what we want. So I'm holding down Control, and then that makes it extrude down. If I hold down Shift, we are using quantize. I'll leave the link to the quantize episode. Let's have this go down to here. And we'll use UN for Fong break selection. You can see it listed there. And I want to select this right here, and I'll move this down. We've gone over this tool in the past as well. I just want to leave some extra room. I'll use UN again to select this surface here. I'll move this on down. I want to add in a sphere, and I'm going to take in the radius here. I know this button is a little bit large, and that's okay because we're not really modeling to scale right now, and we can always correct that later, so I'm not too concerned about it. But the reason why I want to use a sphere is because if you have a joystick, spheres move around quite easily. And you'll see that's the kind of button we have even in a situation like this. You can see that there. It's actually a circular shape at the base so that rotates around, similar to a joystick. So we're working with the sphere. I'm going to hit the C key to make it editable. The hotkey or the icon for that is right down here. I'll go ahead and click here and here. And I just am going to hit the T key and hold down Shift and flatten this on out and scale that down to 0. I'll move this down, and now I'll hold down Control and extrude it out. And I'll use UL to select this here. I'll scale it all in. But I only want to scale it in this way, so I'll actually hold down this right here. Scale that in. So now we have this interesting shape here. But you can see how you can go about adding in buttons and details to objects. A little bit easier if you use these tools. I'm hitting the middle mouse button to come into this perspective here. I actually see that we have some more edges that maybe we don't need here, but I'm on the bottom. But for right now, I'm going to turn on quick shading lines so you could just see this surface here. I'm holding shift on the sphere and the joystick so that I can select both of these. I have this. I want to only click what's visible only. So I'll go ahead and select these. Here. And I'm going to turn off visible only, and I'm going to select all of this here. Deselect the parts that I don't need. I really just want to select the center area. I was trying to save myself time by selecting both areas at once because I was thinking maybe I should just go ahead and scale this whole area in like that. I can go ahead and move this down. You can choose whatever kind of proportions you want. Maybe this is just fine. So maybe this is a button or a control for a game, and we have this sphere button here. So I'm going to name this button control. And I'll go ahead and select this loop here using UL, and we're going to use E and hold down Control to extrude this up, use UL again. I'm going to select this here and then use T, holding down Control. I'll extrude this on out again, just in that direction. So you'll notice that I clicked on this green arrow here, so that I'm only scaling along the X and the Z, not the Y, because that's all that I really wanted. And we could make a shape like this. So you can go play your games at the arcade, and maybe this is a part of one of the games. You can use your own imagination what game it could be for. Yeah, so that's basically what I want to show you, how this tool can be useful for modeling buttons and other details onto objects. And that's how that would be. I may actually, now that I'm looking at this, I just want to drop this further into here because that looks more natural to me. I want to add a bevel around here. You can really go all out with this and add as many details as you'd like. Get creative, have fun. The hotkey for the bevel, you can see listed down here is MS. So I'll bevel this out, add some more subdivisions to it. Now it's nice and rounded. We could go ahead and do that around here. And we could just use the same settings as before and hit new transform. It's looking lovely. And we could do that for up here and here. I'll drag out some nice little bevels there so that it's a nice ergonomic button. And that pretty much wraps up how this Subdivide tool works, all the settings for it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did enjoy this tutorial, please hit like and subscribe so that you'll be notified when the next episode comes out. I enjoyed 3D modeling with you. Each week we go over another 3D modeling tool. So I hope to see you again next week, and happy modeling. See you next time.